Oh my God, you won't believe this. In an interview for Attitude magazine, Jodie Gatwa said that all white people are mediocre. He even pushed gender ideology. This is the star of Doctor Who, the show whose sole purpose has been to be an educational show for kids. Something that hasn't changed since the show's inception in the 60s. And as if it couldn't get any worse, the main villain of the entire series is played by a drag queen. A show for children. And now it's blatantly pushing queer stuff in their face with the goal of indoctrinating our children. Jinx Monsoon, the actor playing this role, he even said he doesn't want the fans to watch the show. The showrunner, Russell T Davies, even said he thinks Doctor Who has gay energy. This is a show for children. And these creators are grooming your kids into gay shit. It's disgusting, and it needs called out. If you're wondering how fans are reacting to this, you can clearly see in the ratings. These are the worst ratings of any show in the history of television. And these numbers are obviously because the real fans are rejecting the depravity and the disgusting degeneracy that this gender ideology that Doctor Who is currently pushing. And I assure you, I am not cherry picking, lying, or leaving out key context. And as a person who runs a YouTube channel, you can trust everything I say. What reason would I have to lie? So to continue engaging in this culture war, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, sign up to my Patreon, and get some of my merch. Got lots of really cool merch. And help me win the culture war. All right, so now that I'm in the actual video, do me a favor. This one's actually serious. If you could actually hit that like button and subscribe, it does actually help this video take some algorithm space from these grifters. So now, with the new season over, we should probably talk about Doctor Who, the long-running-ish staple of British sci-fi. And I say ish because from 1989 until 2005, the series was canceled with only a very bad American TV movie in the middle. That only bright spot was Paul McGann's fantastic performance as the Eighth Doctor. There is actually another bright spot, but for all the wrong reasons. Eric Roberts plays an atrociously bad master in this. He even does a clear knockoff of the Terminator scene.
Why the shades?
I had a bad night.
Did you want something?
What happened to the gunshot wound I brought in? I've got orders to move him.
He died.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so goddamn bad, I can't hate it. But we're going to put that aside because that has nothing to do with this video. Doctor Who was a show I knew about pretty much all my life, but was never really interested in. The concept of an alien traveling time and space in a police box that is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside seemed a little bit too silly for me. My desire to probe into the series certainly wasn't helped by the lack of new Who content being made during my youth. Then in 2005, the series had a very successful reboot, and I didn't even know what happened. At least not until a few years later when I was working at a sub shop, and a couple of my coworkers told me about it and how much they enjoyed it. One of them goes by the name Bobby Quarters on YouTube. I don't know if you've heard of him. Maybe I've heard of him at some point. I don't know. So anyways, I decided to start looking into this series starting at the reboot, which seemed like a much easier entry point than going all the way back to the 60s. So on one of my days off, my daughter in my arm, who was merely a few months old at the time, I checked out the first episode and I was not a fan. I mean, the whole story revolves around plastic people and somehow humans not noticing that these people look wrong and an alien with a sonic screwdriver saving the day. and not noticing that the giant wheel he's looking for is right there. And with that big fucking smile he always puts on, that is clearly fake. No, it was clear. Doctor Who is too silly for me. So, that was it for years and years. Then, one day, I decided to give Doctor Who another shot. Not sure what possessed me to do it after failing to get into the series before, but the show was constantly being recommended to me on a popular streaming service. So, why not give it another go? And this time, it took. I can't explain what the difference was in my state of mind, but the zany, always seemingly upbeat doctor fighting plastic people and robots with egg beater and plunger arms, all in his time and space traveling police box, just worked for me. And the doctor, with his fake smile, was actually a brilliant performance by Christopher Eccleston, using his smile to hide the overwhelming grief he has over the recent destruction of his homeworld Gallifrey. As far as I can tell you, to get into this show, you just have to be prepared to accept a fair bit of cheese. So, now let's fast forward a bit to the current season. My thoughts on it are rather mixed. If I were to judge the episodes individually, without the context of the others in the season, I'd say it's pretty good. A lot of the episodes flow well and are entertaining from beginning to end. However, looking at the overall continuity of the season leaves a lot of questions. So much of the season hinges on the mystery of Ruby Sunday. Ruby is the 15th Doctor's companion. Snow and Christmas music seem to follow her around, and the identity of Ruby's biological mom seems hidden by time itself. DNA tests can't even identify her family.
I'm so sorry. I know it's your birthday, but there is no trace of your mum or dad.
Even DNA tests from the far-off future.
Identified. Ruby Sunday, calendar age 3082 years. Next of kin.
Who is the next of kin?
But then the twist is, she's just a person.
It made her sheer existence more powerful than Time Lords and gods. In the end, the most important person in the universe was the most ordinary.
Like, if Ruby's mom is just a person, why do they have such trouble tracing her DNA? I love the aspect that Sutek, who has apparently been on the TARDIS since Tom Baker, and him not knowing the identity of Ruby's mom, and that driving him mad, and the twist of her just being a normal person, and that normal person driving him mad. I love that idea. But why do various DNA tests done throughout the season make her seem like this big mystery? Also, we gotta talk about Space Babies. That was rocky for a proper season premiere. I mean, it's about a space station filled with leftovers from the Baby Geniuses movies, and haunted by a monster that, albeit looks cool, but is literally made of boogers. A creature that the Doctor took sympathy on because it's one of a kind, an idea I like, except it's a booger monster.
The machine was literal. The nose blowing. And so it grew the bogeyman out of bogies.
What?
Ugh. And my biggest question, with the big twist that Sutek has been on the TARDIS since the Pyramids of Mars, did he switch which TARDIS he was on when a duplicate TARDIS was made in the Giggle?
We won the game. You get a prize, honey. Here is mine.
Remember, the 15th Doctor takes the duplicate, not the original. Or does the 14th Doctor have a duplicate Sutek on his TARDIS as well? These seem like plot points that clearly weren't thoroughly thought out. But this season also did some great stuff. The episodes Dot and Bubble and Rogue are massive highlights. Dot and Bubble is a great commentary on social media, classism, selfishness, and a bit of racism on top.
We couldn't travel with you. What? Why not? Because you, sir, are not one of us.
executed frustratingly well. The main character we follow pretty much chooses death because she and the other people, aka rich white kids who think they know everything, don't think this random black dude knows how to help them. They are kids bred on social media. They've encapsulated themselves in their bubble, quite literally, and think they have all the answers. It's frustrating to see how stupid they are, but my sympathy is massively limited by their brutal, selfish nature. It's a really well done, clever episode that even has some time for comedy mixed in with the clear social commentary.
Forward. 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 Turn left. Forward. Forward.
Did you do it? Are you out?
I don't know how to walk.
What do you mean?
I don't know how to walk without the arrows.
You don't know how to walk?
Without the arrows.
You don't know how to walk without the arrows.
Oh, that's what I just said.
And Rogue? What do I say about this episode? Yes, it features a gay romance between the Doctor and a new character, the titular Rogue, who appears to be a human from the future. The Doctor and Rogue have a semi-antagonistic partnership through half the episode, and the other half, they flat out work together. Jonathan Groff and Ncuti Gatwa have some insane chemistry on screen. When the Chuds were screaming that they would turn the Doctor gay, I didn't believe them since the Doctor throughout his entire history really hasn't had any romantic entanglements. But I was wrong. They did give him a same-sex love interest, and while it's not the first same-sex kiss in the history of the show...
Wish I'd never met you, Doctor. I was much better off as a coward.
It is the first same-sex kiss with romantic implications. Frankly, it was something I didn't think they would do, but they did it, and they did it incredibly well. I bought Rogue and the Doctor's relationship 100%, and Rogue is easily the best episode of the season. They took the Doctor and his companion and put them in an utterly bizarre situation that actually gets pretty goofy if you break it down, and simply execute it as well as possible. And that's what Doctor Who is at its core. It started as a low-budget British educational show. So much of the early show was done just to allow for a limited budget, and that became the aesthetic for Doctor Who.
There's still a police box. Why hasn't it changed? Dear, dear. How very disturbing.
All the stuff that seems outlandish and silly. Well, that's Doctor Who at its core. To watch Doctor Who is to accept a certain amount of cheese in the show. Otherwise, watch something else. Now, this cheese aspect of the show unfortunately makes it cannon fodder for the toxic fan community. There is so much silly built into the show's DNA that looking for something that can be misrepresented becomes all too easy for the grifter community. But it was a beloved sci-fi nerd staple. Why turn on it? Well, they didn't turn on it until The Last Two Doctors, a show that had always starred a white man as the titular Doctor, until Jodie Whittaker and Ncuti Gatwa. It's one of those things where it's easy to get caught up in X story bad or X event is dumb because all of Doctor Who is silly to some degree. If you don't accept that, the whole premise falls apart. But also accepting that premise, all the Doctors have a few bad stories to their name. Some more than others.
You're not serious.
I'm always serious.
You can't go out dressed like that.
Why ever not?
You look dreadful.
But it's all there. So, a sometimes bad story mixed with a series that is cheese in its DNA makes it easy for dishonest grifters to gaslight their audience into thinking that this is somehow a ruined franchise. But when you step back and look at when they started their outrage machine against the series, the outright bigotry of the whole thing really shines through. So, what are some of the recent outrage narratives they've decided to push? Well, you have their default that the show is pushing message over story.
It couldn't get worse than that. Oh, it does. Because, as most of you know by now, a show about, say, a mysterious time-traveling madman in a box just can't be a show anymore. It has to be a platform for
the message.
According to Variety, Russell T. Davies didn't set out to be revolutionary in casting the next Doctor.
You sure about that?
You sure about that? That's why?
In a way, I agree with them because in truth, he made the most compliant pick for the modern BBC and Disney. But then RTD follows it up with, these are exactly the type of barriers I like to break. So which one is it? I would like to remind people that this is the guy who created the show Queer as Folk for the BBC back in 1999.
Boys are out tonight, huh?
The show became an opportunity to push more diverse casting and lecture audiences about racism and sexism, and the Doctor's entire backstory was retconned so that he actually started life not as the first male Doctor, but as a young black female. We warned people about this when they championed the move of making the Doctor a woman in the first place. We warned that this was all part of a social engineering agenda. We explained that wokeness was an attack on culture. We weren't listened to or understood by a vocal minority of extremely lefty Doctor Who fans. As far as they're concerned, the more stunning and brave, the better. Quality of writing be damned.
Apparently, the show is also a massive flop in the ratings and will not get a season 3.
They brought in Ncuti Gatwa to play black gay Doctor Who. And they wanted to make sure that with each and every episode, they remind you that he's black and that he's gay and how important that is to all of the stories that they're telling. And as a result, by focusing on agenda and identity politics instead of actually telling a story for Doctor Who fans, this has been the result. 26% on Rotten Tomatoes right now for the current iteration of Doctor Who. And it looks like it's only going to get worse. And if a bunch of people were tuning in and hating it, that would be one thing. But also the ratings are the worst we've ever seen. Doctor Who gay kiss episode, you know, the first time you'd ever seen the Doctor have a kiss with another man. How impressive, how stunning, how brave that this is what Doctor Who is now. Second lowest ratings of all time. What was it second to? Another episode that aired this season.
Millie Gibson was insultingly fired from the series.
We can surmise that she was indeed fired, because Deadline Hollywood referenced the original and vindicated source by saying, "The Mirror said the decision was made by Doctor Who showrunner Russell T. Davies, and Gibson will not appear in the 2024 Christmas special after her first full season, which premieres in May." In other words, it wasn't the actress who decided that she wanted to leave, it was showrunner Russell T. Davies' call that she do, which is another way of saying she was fired. Russell is keeping things moving and isn't letting the grass grow, that's for sure. On Sethu, a BBC source added, "Varada is a real gem. Russell was blown away by her talent. The cast and crew have really warmed to her and he's sure the fans will too." Yeah, that's really nice for Varada Sethu, but make no mistake about it, that's the showrunner, the cast, the crew, the BBC and the Daily Mirror, who whether they intend to or not, by way of unfiltered leaks, all rake Millie Gibson over the coals as being entirely forgettable. Not a great way to promote the upcoming season, and certainly disastrous to a young actress.
Ncuti Gatwa called all fans racist and called all white people mediocre and told them not to watch.
I think you've had enough. Lots and lots and lots and lots more diversity. Literally, diversity to you just means more gays and more black people, doesn't it? That's incredibly racist. I think diversity should be diversity of thought. Diversity of upbringing, not, well, you're brown, so you're diverse. That's just so racist. Lots more inclusion on our screen. Lots and lots and lots of it for all you male gammons out there. And they say this, in UK slang, the term gammon refers to the colour of a person's flushed face when expressing their strong opinions as compared to the type of pork of the same name. Yeah, so gammon's kind of become it's become an insult for the working class in the UK that have an issue with all the immigration going on.
It's become an insult that have an issue with all the immigration going on.
And people have just had enough. So there you go. Doctor Who, just white mediocrity, I guess. Funny, because I've seen a whole lot of black mediocrity at the moment. I hate to say it, but yeah, didn't earn it. DEI, that is what it creates. That is genuinely what it creates.
Jinx Monsoon called all fans transphobes and told them not to watch.
Who Fallout has been incredible after this show has been subject to seemingly one of the most coordinated attack the fan campaigns of all time. Whether it be David Tennant telling the fans that they can just F off, the main character, Ncuti Gatwa, telling people don't watch, turn off the TV, go and touch grass. He feels sad for those who don't watch the show because it's been perverted. It's fascinating that it matters so much to these people. I can understand why a Rwandan wouldn't see the importance of destroying British culture and heritage that goes back decades, long before he had anything to do with the nation.
Sheer f***ing hubris.
But maybe, just maybe, it means a little bit more to British people. You're going to limit yourselves from a show that you claim to love because you don't like someone. That's really sad for them. You're gonna stop yourselves consuming the thing that we're actively destroying so you don't consume our new slop? I'm so sorry you're gonna miss out on it. How will you ever cope without my mediocrity?
And if I have to explode the engines and rapture this world and damn us all to hell, then I will!
Then we get the very basic. The character is a shape-shifting alien. It can be anyone. No, it has to be a British man, because it's to do with British heritage. I know it's too complicated for you to understand. But the point is, there is only one representation of the character, a British man, and that is going to be quite limiting, because that's the point. To limit it to being part of British heritage. Instead, it's tricky, because this is a win for inclusion, which means the lowering of standards, but let's not stop there, let's lower them even further. This could have happened ages ago. We could have completely annihilated the show and lowered our standards before, but now, it warms my heart to know that we're lowering the standards. I love the responsibility. You need to keep your mind open, because I want to change your justified opinions. It is weird that he feels so sorry for those people when The Guardian came out and gone, even the haters will find it impossible to resist him. I can only assume they mean he's going to attack them down a dark alley or something, because otherwise, it's very easy to resist this show, as the ratings prove, coming in at 2.6 and 2.4 million. In fact, they were so desperate to scare off all of those viewers that even the villain of the second episode, some random numpty that just enters for a bit, decided that they too were going to jump on the train and start attacking people. Who gives an F what the bigots think? For every person who's just one of those ists or whatever that we don't really care about, you know, the normal people.
It just feels natural. This is the world.
That we lose. There's going to be 3 to 5 new fans that come in just for that representation, just to replace them. So those fans who are not fans anymore, I say, don't let the door hit you on the way out. The message was clear. We don't want you to watch. If you're British, if you're a Doctor Who fan, if you've been around for the decades as part of the culture, we don't want you anymore. Now we've changed. Now people turn up just for the representation. That's the idea, that's the theory, and that's the reason for failure. Because in his own little tiny world, in his dark little corner full of mediocrity and the lack of aspiration, then representation is incredibly important. Inclusion, the lowering of standards is incredibly important. But to people that want to be entertained, that's where the quality needs to be there. That's where nobody really cares about you. That's where you're irrelevant. You could never make another show again and no one would care, because you'd be replaced instantaneously. It may be the world you live in, it's just not the one that normal people care about. And it's normal people, which are the majority of people. That's why they're normal. That's what normal means. And the majority of an audience are the only people that matter.
And just like X-Men 97, a new narrative spawned when the series ended. Apparently, Ncuti Gatwa isn't masculine enough to play the Doctor?
What they did was drain every ounce of masculinity that was left. It's completely gone. And it's here completely for the message, for the platform of Doctor Who, to push Russell T Davies' idealistic, militant, bitter politics. Which, I mean, I don't even care how he got there. This isn't the Russell T Davies from 20 years ago.
So let's start breaking these down. Message over story. It's a tale as old as time, at least for these online grifters. Anytime a woman or minority gets a traditionally white male role, a certain chunk of the online community yells about how the franchise is putting message over story. So let's break it down a bit. What exactly does that mean? Well, the argument, as well as I can understand it, is the writer is pushing their message so hard that they don't care about telling a good story anymore. Hell, maybe even bad messaging can get in because the writer is so consumed by their core message that they miss the forest for the trees. Let's break down an example of this. Star Trek Voyager's 4th season, an episode called Retrospect. Voyager is in orbit of a planet getting supplies. Their main contact is an arms dealer named Coven. Coven and 7 of 9 get working on a project. Coven gets really pushy with 7 and she overreacts and hits him. It's not clear why the normally very level-headed 7 overreacted, but the Doctor, Voyager's holographic Doctor, not the time-traveling type, identifies what appears to be suppressed memories. He does an experiment to retrieve 7's lost time. What is revealed is that earlier in their dealings with Coven, he knocked her out so he could steal her Borg nanoprobes. 7 makes sure to identify that she views this as a violation.
He violated me.
The Voyager crew are naturally enraged by Coven's willingness to do this to 7. His actions are reported and he is cast out of his society and loses everything, only to then discover that 7's memories were actually false. But unfortunately, Coven is killed before he can be redeemed. Now for a bit of background. During this time in the 90s, suppressed memories were, well, I hate to say this about something that can get pretty serious, but they were kind of a fad. Everyone seemed to have a suppressed memory discovered frequently by a person looking for something. The problem is, frequently these memories would turn out to be false. However, the false memory would be so ingrained in the person that it would be difficult for them to believe these memories are false, despite overwhelming evidence. However, the fad of suppressed memories in the 90s was short-lived. Not to say that suppressed memories aren't a real thing, they are, but we've definitely learned how to handle them more responsibly as a society. And while the moral of this episode, don't believe recovered memories without finding some real evidence to back them up, is a good lesson, in modern day, this episode doesn't have that read. There's no way to really sugarcoat this. But this episode makes it very clear that 7 thought she was raped, and the man had his livelihood destroyed and eventually died due to this allegation. The implication is as clear as it can be. This episode is anti-Me Too, before the Me Too movement ever existed.
But it's like, it's about 7 of 9 trying to like get bodily autonomy over herself.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just do whatever you want to me just because I'm a drone. But like, it's also kind of down talking that. It's all weird. You're right about it being about like recalled memories and stuff like that initially, and I definitely do get that in retrospect. That's the name of the episode.
Yeah, recalled memories. I remember when I watched this in the day. That was a big thing that was going on that you talk about in the news, and it's like, you know, they aren't always reliable, so you can't always depend on them.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's totally a sexual assault theme where it's like, he, you know, did he actually steal nanoprobes from her? And the episode definitely leans towards no, but it's like, it's like the argument can also be made this episode saying is, oh, if somebody claims assault, just don't believe them. It's like
little icky.
I mean, you know, like on one hand, I can tell that was not what they were going for. You know,
right.
I watched it, I could tell that they were, you know, going for like the recalled memories bit, and like that's true. They're not always reliable, but then like, you know, you have all of these scenes where like 7 of 9 is going back, and they're like, you know, why did you hit that person? Why you dislike him? And they're going back, and she's saying stuff like, he violated me, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
very specific word choice. Very specific word choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much implying like a sexual assault, and then it's
and what's also weird is like,
doesn't remember it right.
Yeah. Like, it's also weird that like it's a prominent 7 episode. Like, you can't say that this isn't like a heavy 7 episode, but at the end it's more of a Doctor episode.
Yeah,
like,
it kind of
almost
segues into a Doctor episode.
This is an ensemble show, so it's fine, you know, to have prominent characters, multiple. But like, it's weird that it's her pain of the possible violation for a Doctor story. That's odd.
It does feel weird when the Doctor, especially as the episode goes on, just becomes more and more of a Doctor story, and because it's him like getting the memories, and then like when everything's resolved and the guy ends up dying and he didn't actually take the nanoprobes, it's like the Doctor who's like, oh wow, I shouldn't have believed 7, and we don't really focus on what 7's going through during this, and it's like.
And that could have been a great thing to explore with 7 too. Like, what's real?
Yeah.
Dreams, or like, you know, like how do you handle when you have these like weird emotions in you and you don't know how to like explore that with her? It's perfect.
I mean, we could have actually explored that because she's probably not familiar with like having memories that aren't reliable.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's something that could have been explored, but nope, it's a doctor episode now.
Especially with like the opening where like it doesn't even seem like she really like remembers it, you know.
Yeah.
Like she has to like recall it, you know.
Mhm.
Because whatever it is, it was implied to have been like extremely painful for her, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an episode that means well, but doesn't translate great as time goes by.
Yeah.
And the main guest star, the creepy dude, the actor, creepy dude's the hell out of it, man. Like, let's just give him a little shout out for a minute. Like, he's a great creepy dude.
Kevin Horton.
There it is.
Yeah. Very creepy.
Good for you, buddy.
But this episode of Voyager accidentally takes the stance that women should not be believed. That when 7 claims Coven violated her, she is in the wrong, because such a claim should be dismissed because of the possibility of it being untrue. Here's the wild thing. This is actually a decently paced story. It's well put together, and it just is dated terribly. It was clear the writer wanted to do a story about the unreliability of recovered memories. But unfortunately, time has changed this into a Me Too story, where the woman claims a man raped her, and she was in the wrong. And she shouldn't have come forward with her claim because now she destroyed an innocent man. That was a long tangent, but that is a great example of putting message over story and not thinking of the full implications of what your story is saying. Sure, Me Too didn't exist when this episode was written, but rape did. The writers should have thought of this much more carefully. But we're not here to talk about Star Trek Voyager. We're here to talk about Doctor Who. So, what's an example of Doctor Who putting message over story? And here's the problem with that claim. They were making it before any Ncuti Gatwa episodes were released. They were making the claim entirely because a black, openly gay man was cast in the role of the Doctor. But he's an actor. Why would you assume that the storytelling would suddenly suck because he was cast? Well, the overwhelming counterargument would be that has become the norm. That all projects now focus on message over story, and all stories that do this are now bad. I find this very hard to believe. I had to go back over a quarter of a century to find an example of messaging gone wrong. Surely, if this is such a massive problem, I won't have to go back so far to find a clear example. And their response would undoubtedly be, what about Captain Marvel? Maybe they would also bring up Ghostbusters 2016 or The Last Jedi. But let's look at Captain Marvel and try to see how it puts its message over its story. Captain Marvel is the story of Veers, a woman who is a proud member of a Kree super soldier task force that brings order to the galaxy by stopping the villainous shape-shifting Skrull. Except that's not what's actually happening. The Kree are hunting down the Skrull, who are a people looking for a place to live, and now finding themselves having to take the offensive to defend their rights to live. Israel's goal to suppress and take away the rights of the Palestinian people is what created Hamas. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant to say, the Kree's goal to suppress and take away the rights of the Skrull is what created the Skrull counterinsurgency. Captain Marvel was proud of her work with the Kree, but she discovers her true memories and her real past was suppressed. Hey, that random Voyager tangent about suppressed memories kind of came back a bit. Hey. She was brainwashed, and only once she recognizes that brainwashing can she see the Kree for who they really are and stand against them, unleashing her full strength, which was also being suppressed by the Kree. So, what is offensive here? Hell, what is even wrong with this story? You can definitely argue missteps in storytelling, and I definitely have some gripes there as well. But arguing that somehow this story is bad because of messaging is bizarre. Hell, break it all the way down. It's about a person lacking confidence in themselves, then discovering what they truly are capable of and taking a stand. Like Spider-Man, like Captain America, like Thor, like Ant-Man. So what makes Captain Marvel so different from these other heroes and, oh. So we look at the Doctor and ask the same thing. Why Ncuti Gatwa and Jodie Whittaker got put under the microscope and through the online ringer, while Peter Capaldi and Matt Smith got a pass? And we start to see a pattern. Putting message over good storytelling can be a problem, as I presented, but it is an exception, not a rule. It actually gets tricky to find a clear-cut example of this, which means it's not a widespread problem as the grifters would like you to believe. So what is it really? Putting message over story has simply become a dog whistle, a way to mock women and minorities in traditional white male roles while hiding the absolute sexism and racism and general bigotry that's absolutely happening when they do this. So if you see a YouTuber outraged that some franchise has put its message over its story, it doesn't mean automatically that they're a grifter, because there are examples of this existing, but it's definitely an indicator that, yeah, they probably are. And whoa, those ratings, they aren't very good. In fact, they're on the same level Slyvester McCoy was at when the original show was canceled in the 80s. So the Chuds have a point, right? No. Naturally, they're cutting out important context. These ratings that they're reporting on, they are the overnight live ratings. That's it. If you watched it live and you have a ratings box, you're counted. These numbers were devastating for Slyvester McCoy's run because that was literally the only way people could watch the show. So what's different now? Pretty much everything. The way our culture consumes media is vastly different than it was 35 years ago. People have boxes that record live TV with the goal to watch it later. For many people, this is the primary way they consume media. Record what they want to watch and watch it on their own schedule. The Chuds don't watch this number a lot, but it also isn't the biggest factor at play here. So you can schedule your day to watch Doctor Who when it's live on broadcast TV, or you can record it and watch it when it's convenient for you, or you can watch it like most everyone else when it's available to stream. And how long after it airs is it available to stream, you might ask? Well, that answer is actually 19 hours before it's broadcast. That's right. Before the show is broadcast on live TV, any streaming service that hosts Doctor Who will post the episode. So, do you think most fans wait to watch it live, or just stream it when they have the chance? That's the thing that's easy to ignore this season, because this is the first year Doctor Who has been like this. Doctor Who has pretty much been fully converted into being a streaming series this year. So when you just take the live ratings and condemn the whole series for those numbers, you cut out massive context. Streamers are notoriously stingy with their numbers, but here's an article that talks about the fact that still carries noteworthy numbers at all on live broadcast is a testament to its good performance. So this is again another example of Chuds cherry-picking data to try to back up their erroneous claims. And when they talk about something that has bad ratings constantly, you know there's more to the story because these guys literally only make videos on media that makes them money. And if Doctor Who makes them money, it means it's probably doing okay. And also a brief aside, ratings or box office are not remotely good gauges of quality. Do you think The Shawshank Redemption, The Big Lebowski, John Carpenter's The Thing, Brian Fuller's Hannibal, or Firefly are bad just because they pulled bad numbers? Of course not. These are not metrics of quality, and they never were. Now, how about how they replaced Millie Gibson, The white cast member was cruelly fired and mocked online to be replaced by a new companion of Indian descent next year. Well, there's actually not much to go over here. Millie Gibson plays the first companion for the 15th Doctor, and she does a great job. She gets a full arc throughout the season and gets a send-off that feels like a natural end to her character. A happy ending, which companions don't always get. You can argue that elements of her story were poorly thought out, because they absolutely were. But at the end of Empire of Death, after what happened to her, it would actually feel weird for her to hop on the TARDIS and do more adventures because her story is resolved. She had just found her biological mom and was gearing up to meet her biological dad. Her family was being reunited. Obviously, she should stay and be with her family, both biological and adoptive. And the Doctor, frankly, doesn't belong there. It's not that she can never return, but her character going off on more adventures with the Doctor at that point just doesn't seem right. So she gets a full arc, and the Doctor goes off and gets a new companion. Honestly, standard fare for Doctor Who. The cast and crew working on Season 2 comment on how excited they are to work with Radha Sethu, the new actress filling the companion role. And that's what the grifters chose to focus on. Cast and crew commenting on how well the new companion works is apparently an insult to Millie Gibson? This is definitely a case of the grifter sphere working hard to make a mountain out of a molehill. Millie Gibson had a full character arc for Ruby Sunday, and now moved on. So the cast and crew telling the audience that the new companion will be awesome too, and that the show has an exciting future ahead of it, whether that is true or not, time will tell. But it's definitely what you say if you don't want fans nervous about cast changes, which is an especially big deal for new fans who are the most likely to walk away. But that's it. Honestly, looking at Russell T Davies' previous run of Doctor Who, he probably wanted to quickly establish that cast changes are pretty normal for the series. Last time he did it with the Doctor, and now he's doing it with a companion.
Hello. Okay. New teeth.
As for Ncuti Gatwa and Jinx Monsoon interviews where they tell fans not to watch, where Gatwa calls white people mediocre and Monsoon calls the fans transphobes, well, this is much a standard tactic by the grifter sphere as well. In an interview, Gatwa discusses how it is much harder for black people to make an impact in the entertainment industry and how white people can get by just being good, while black people have to be near perfect to get anywhere. Here's a full quote from Attitude magazine. Yes, I was very, very emotionally avoidant. I strictly emotionally avoided everything my whole 20s. I was catching up with my sister the other day, and I was like, I think from the way that we were raised, I think we were taught that we have to earn love, instead of it being an unconditional thing, or that being an unconditional entity. I'm not saying it is that. I don't know whether that comes from an African upbringing, that strict upbringing, get your grades, get into a good uni, become a doctor, become a lawyer, start overachieving. It was like you have to prove why you're lovable. We're trained to be like this. If I'm not exceptional, I won't be loved. Certainly, I think that was my thing. So yeah, I think I'm learning now, like, oh, you are allowed to be loved. You don't have to be excellent or aspire to that term. Black excellence. What the hell? There's so much white mediocrity that gets celebrated. And black people, they have to be absolutely flawless to get half of that anyway. So I'm slowly training myself out of that and being like, no shit. You deserve love just for existing. That has taught me to be a lot more loving as well, in a weird way. Hell, the fact that Gatwa did such a good job in his first season and still gets shit on more than most any other doctor in history really just proves his point.
This actually brings up a thing about Hypnotic that I forgot that I wanted to look at real quick. He has a video up that is called Woke Doctor Who Actor, and I don't know how to say this guy's name. I'm sorry.
Is it Cuddy Gatwa?
Cuddy Gatwa. Okay.
Ncuti Gatwa.
Ncuti Gatwa. Okay, whatever. That guy. He attacks fans. Anytime I see that from these guys, I'm immediately like, no, he didn't. No, they didn't.
They never attack the fans. That's never what happened.
No.
No.
And then the second part is, which I'll repeat this little tidbit about how to spot a grifter really easily is anytime they have like multiple statements that are very specific in the headline, the title. That's usually going to be a good indicator of a grifter because they're trying to tell you, like, make you believe this narrative before you even click on the fucking thing.
What are they saying?
So it's woke Doctor Who actor attacks fans, says white people are mediocre and black is supreme. And I'm like, something tells me he didn't fucking say that. So I looked into it. And let's see what he said here. I Googled Doctor Who actor white people. And the quote that he's referencing, vaguely, barely, not really.
So when you put says and you don't put paraphrasing, then that is where you get into an issue of like defaming someone.
Yeah.
White mediocrity gets celebrated, while black people have to be absolutely flawless to get half that praise.
That's just not the same thing.
That's just him being based, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's him reporting on his
Well,
life.
it's like the dumb person's version of that statement. It's like he knows exactly who he's talking to. He's talking to a bunch of dumb people. And so he's like, let me make this digestible for these bigots who are too stupid to understand nuance.
Like, and we could, we might as well look at the video. We can read a little bit of this, see exactly what he said. Then we can maybe even look at Hypnotic's video and see how much he's just contorted within the video.
Well, Hypnotic is just going to read the article. So that's all you're going to get out of his video. Anyway.
But where's he reading the article from?
Probably either Bounding in a Comics,
Bounding
Fandom
Comics.
Polls, Spark Place, Breitbart. Those are the four websites he goes to.
To be fair, this is a lot of nuance, and you kind of have to have like some level of literacy to understand it. So, I mean, just like a basic one, and also not be a fucking bigot.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that I've talked about this before. The standard for people in marginalized communities is always higher because you cannot release something that is average. It either has to be a home run or it's complete shit. That's just the way people look at it.
I mean, look at the way people are blown up over like all this stuff. This whole grifter culture exists pretty much because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking crazy to think that that's what he's even saying. Like, white mediocrity being celebrated is not, and I guess whether he's doing it on purpose or not, I don't know.
He's not saying white people are mediocre, which is what the Yellow Flash was saying. He's talking about white mediocrity as a systemic thing.
Yep. Just mediocre content, mediocre, barely talented, not talented people that get kind of pushed up and platformed for no apparent reason. We're trained to be like, if I'm not exceptional, I won't be loved. Certainly, I think that was my thing. So yeah, I think I'm just learning now, like, you are allowed to be loved. You don't have to be excellent to or aspire to that term. Black excellence. What the hell? There's so much white mediocrity that gets celebrated, and black people who, and he's not even talking about himself generally. He's talking about like the perception, like cultural perception of, right? So I'm slowly training myself out of that and being like, no shit, you deserve love for just existing. And that has taught me to be a lot more loving as well in a weird way. No, that makes perfect sense, man. Pretty based. Good shit.
Yeah.
So that's somehow become.
I mean, look at the situation here, right? This is why it's so ridiculous. He is a black Doctor Who. A role that has been passed on to how many people now? 20, 30 different people have played Doctor Who. How many have played? Like, it's been a lot.
In canon, he's 14, maybe 15.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Because I know some of them have gone away and then come back, and there's been like other.
Well,
ones
David
stuff,
Tennant's the only one that has come back. But yeah. Yes.
So we're talking about over a dozen people have played Doctor Who. He's
Yeah.
the first one that's a black guy, and look at the criticisms of him already for simply playing Doctor Who.
No, they're blowing up at him.
If you're going to argue that he's wrong, then where's all this criticism coming from? That's the proof you need right there.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those things where I thought his Christmas special was fine. It didn't thrill me, but I thought he did a really good job. But everybody's blowing up at him. Honestly, most of the criticism I see has to do with that dance scene, which is idiotic.
Time traveling and sonic screwdrivers we can accept, but a black guy, that's too much.
Yeah, a black guy looking dressed goofy and dancing in a nightclub. Like the Doctor has never looked goofy in his history. Are you
Like,
guys serious?
You're ruining my immersion. I can't
Yeah.
believe in like a TARDIS and sonic screwdrivers and Alex. I can't. None of that matters if you have a black guy playing Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob, like, because you're a fan of Doctor Who, right?
Yeah.
Which two Doctor Who actors would you say are the most criticized and like the ones who have, like kind of had to prove the most, like to exist?
You know, it's the last two. It's
Yep.
Jodie Gatwa, the first Black Doctor, and Jodie Whittaker, the first woman Doctor.
Exactly. It just proves the point that people who aren't white men white straight men for that sake need to do so much more to just be accepted the same way that an average white straight man will.
I mean, they
in
have
the
to be
role.
white. They would have to be white to be accepted.
So I want to point something else out to you guys about this video real quick. So this is it right here. Woke Doctor Who actor tags fans. And
Now-
I clicked on it.
But real quick, before we even get into it, woke Doctor Who actor. What is he using the word woke in place of there? That's something you always have to ask yourself when you use the term.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
it's in place of like the N word.
Why do you guys
Mhm.
why do you guys think that the comments are turned off here?
I don't know. Is it because Doctor Who gets flagged
Maybe.
as like a child show on YouTube?
I don't know. Is he scared of criticism? Maybe.
See, that was my first thought, but
I mean,
then
it
I
can't
thought,
be that he's
then
insecure.
after that I was like, wait a second, because I'll be honest, I've watched a little bit of a couple of his streams since I've discovered this fucker. Like I'm talking like 10 minutes at a time is the max I can take of it, but like his membership name, the name of his memberships on his channel is it's just the bigots or something like that. Something like that, calling themselves bigots or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got this racist version of African American English or vernacular English that they use all over the place. They use it in chat all the time, where they're like, the we was kangs and shit type of thing. There's a lot of fucking overt racism going on with this guy's channel.
This channel's awful.
I can't help but wonder if maybe he's worried he's going to get in trouble for his comment section based on a video like this. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
I also want to point out that the people who don't show who they are the absolute worst ones. They're the ones that will go the furthest. With the exception of like one or two guys. But I believe Hypnotic is hiding who he is because he's going to try and get as big as he can and make as much money as he can on YouTube, and then never have to actually own up to anything that he's done.
Yeah, he's gonna get the bag. Yeah. The bigot army, that's what it is. The bigot army, right?
Anyone who embraces being a bigot after being called a bigot is just this person you can't trust. Like they are.
Let me reclaim this unreclaimable thing because it never meant anything else. It's always meant the same thing.
That's probably, they would definitely try to defend with the idea that like, oh, what do we just call ourselves that because you call us that? And it's like,
it's ironic.
No, man, it's just a word that means what it means.
We are actual bigots, so we're gonna claim the word bigot.
If you're wondering what the Jinx Monsoon quote was, here it is from Slate magazine. Russell T Davies brought Doctor Who to everyone. He brought it back because he was passionate about it. To the people who have issues, the show that you love was created by a queer person. Get over it. A lot of people are going to really love this, and I think this season is going to create a lot of new Doctor Who fans. And if we lose some of the transphobic ones, don't let the door hit you on the way out. There's a lot of toxicity around the gender and the trans conversation. In the 70s, it was a conversation of queerness, the gay conversation. We overcame it once, and we'll overcome it again. To the people who are upset about it, boo-hoo. Cry your fucking tears. It's not your world exclusively. We all live here, so get over yourself. I know a lot of people might not even watch this season of Doctor Who because it's taking such a decisively queer step. However, if they watch it, I think they'll see that we're just actors playing characters. And if they don't watch it, then who needs them? I truly believe that for every fan we lose to transphobia, we're going to have 2 or 3 more coming in because they're excited for trans representation. Just going over this, we can clearly see Monsoon is not telling fans not to watch the show. She is telling transphobes not to watch the show. Now, if your argument is that the Doctor Who fan base is entirely made up of transphobes, then that is a troubling fan base, and I refuse to believe it.
I'm Jinx Monsoon, and this is my costume for Doctor Who.
Yes. Looks great. I love it. There's actually some pictures here. I think there's another. Wait, is that the only one? I thought there was a larger picture. But we kind of see here. Anyway, it looks like it's going to be some sort of musical character. Now, again, I am a casual Doctor Who fan, so I don't know every single character that's ever been in the show through the history of Doctor Who. But I have been watching for like the last decade and some change. And I have no idea who this is supposed to be. Maybe I'm blanking on it. But I'm assuming it's going to be some sort of musical character, which is right up Jinx's alley. Jinx is an amazing singer, amazing performer. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun having her on the show. And especially right now, we have so many hateful, bigoted bills trying to get passed in this country that are trying to take away expression and free speech. And they're going to end up going to the Supreme Court most likely because they're against people's individual freedoms and rights, and they're trying to use loopholes to oppress people and hold people back. And drag is an art form. It is not some weird, seductive, insidious thing. Yes, there are different types of drag, and of course some drag may lean into that, but drag in itself is an art form, and it leans into all kinds of things, including comedy, which is kind of what Jinx does as a comedy drag queen, which has nothing to do with any of the rhetoric and misinformation and ignorance that is coming out of a lot of these people's channels that are just spreading complete false information out there, spreading fake news, as they would say, spreading fake news to the masses to try and get people angry at drag by telling them something is wrong with it, when drag has been going on for a very long time and it's never been an issue. So this new problem that they've created with drag is basically just a lie. They're telling you to be angry at something so you will get angry.
Frankly, Monsoon and Gatwa are just spitting facts here. And if you are offended by what they say, it means you should do some self-reflection. In fact, I'll take a page from Monsoon's book. If you're a transphobe, don't watch my channel. Your garbage takes are not welcome here. The final narrative is one of the most insane things I've ever heard. There are a lot of terms that can be used to describe the Doctor. Smart, brave, creative, unique, bold, ingenious, clever, empathetic, hell, even sometimes cold and ruthless. But manly? Macho? Never. But let's look at what started this conversation, and it really started when Empire of Death aired, and I could see that. There is a scene where the Doctor breaks down, cries, just screaming into the void of space. This is something that hasn't happened before, at least that I recall. So what caused the Doctor to do this? The universe died. Literally, everyone in the universe died except for the Doctor, Ruby, and Mel. That's it. Listen, I have my complaints about Empire of Death for sure. I've already gone over a lot of them. But maybe, just maybe, when the universe ends, the Doctor can be allowed a moment to break down. Call me crazy, I don't think that's unreasonable. Hell, not having a breakdown in that moment seems pretty cold in my opinion. So this idea that the Doctor is no longer masculine is some insanely dumb shit said by people who either don't watch Doctor Who or are just lying about it. So honestly, there's a lot to criticize with this latest season of Doctor Who. I addressed a lot of it earlier, but it seems very clear Russell T Davies didn't think out the season all that thoroughly. But somehow, yet again, the toxic fans miss all the genuine points and instead fall back on bigotry and misinformation, their usual brain-dead tactic. And their fans just follow their word without ever actually engaging with the media themselves. Just like how they clearly and blindly attack a truly epic episode of The Acolyte, a series that should probably get this treatment as well. Before I leave you, please make sure to like and subscribe, and comment your thoughts on Doctor Who. What do you think of the latest season? What was your favorite episode? What do you think of Ncuti Gatwa's performance? What do you think of Millie Gibson? Is there actually Nars Sutek on the 14th Doctor's TARDIS? What's your favorite 7 of 9 episode? Okay, that's not Doctor Who related. But finally, one last thing I want to leave you with. Make sure to support YouTubers with honest takes who actually engage with the media. It's important to like and subscribe to those channels. It's easy to just like videos passively and move on. But you have to actually give a like and engage if you want to help the algorithm at all. Here's some great channels that could use your love. Organized Chaos Podcast, Actual Fandom, Turf Nation, Eric's Reloaded, Eric Debunks, Pop Counterculture, Forced Adversity Podcast, Mr. TARDIS, Pillar of Garbage, Bob of the Old Ways, Nothing But Media, Blurred Without Fear, Blurry Films, Chariot, Edgier Than Thou, My 2 Cents of Nonsense, Bobby Quarters, and many, many more.
You know, the very powerful and the very stupid have one thing in common. They don't alter their views to fit the facts. They alter the facts to fit the views.
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.
We've been treated to some delights of characters. Like, I saw this clip of Maestro.
Who are you? My notation
And I
is...
just...
This fucking character, this is one of the worst characters I've seen on anything ever. It was insufferable. It is viscerally disgusting listening to this thing prance and dance around screen. The actor was just one of the worst fucking actors I've ever seen. I was shocked at how bad this was. I was shocked.
Well, I was curious about what this thing is and how it factors into the story. And I guess maybe you guys can help me out. Like, what is going on here?
It's the toy maker's son.
First, I want to thank you, Drinker. I had managed to avoid watching any clip from this new Doctor Who because of how horrible it looked. Now, thank you for subjecting me to it for the first time.
Now they have the Maestro, who is the son of Neil Patrick Harris, who's clearly a dude, and it's supposed to be a replacement for the Master. It's also he's a god. He's godlike,
and especially a show that is supposed to be kid friendly. All right,
family friendly.
Family
well.
friendly.
Like,
that's why
families
they
can
specifically
sit down together and watch this, and they really can't. Like, this is, it's disgusting. This particular character. There's a lot of trans stuff. There's the pronouns. There's some really nasty ad hominem abortion straw man in episode 2, and like pro-abortion stuff. And it's really.
Thank you for catching that. It was
nasty.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Really nasty.
It's an LG. Sorry, go ahead, Trinker.
Well, it's just I wanted to draw your attention just to a quote here, and this is from Jinx Monsoon, the actor who plays this character. They were getting interviewed about the backlash that Doctor Who might receive for doing storylines like this, having characters like this, and they said, "Who gives a fuck what bigots think? A more optimistic and idealistic way of looking at it is that popular opinion is not on their side. They're a very loud group, and they're growing louder as they grow smaller. With every way they lash out in this way, the conservative right has decided to take an all-out war against trans people, queer people, and people of color, and claim that's not what they're doing, but that's clearly what they're doing. Numbers are not shrinking." Your viewing figures say otherwise, but
exactly,
whatever.
I was going to say that.
But here's the interesting thing, though. For every transphobic, racist, bigoted Doctor Who fan that we lose this season, there are going to be 3 to 5 new fans who are coming in for the representation. So to those fans who are not fans, I say, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
It also feels like they've gotten past the notion that it has a...
Hey, what's Mola doing here?